This is your year to ring in the deals and ring in the keys to your brand new ride during our Ring in the Savings event at Capital Ford. Like a new 2025 Ford F-250 Super Duty with 0% APR for 60 months. Or a new 2025 Ford Bronco Sport. Just $495 a month lease for 36 months with no money down. This is your year, so drive into 2026 the right way during our Ring in the Savings event at Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
Hey, everybody, welcome back in to another episode of the Pit Press Live. I'm your host, Eric Moulton, and tonight we got a loaded show. First, we're going to be kicking off with ABC Prep Basketball President and Coach Brendan Mason. I'll be joined later a little bit by Nick Nunez and Rick Thompson from the Cherry Heat Check podcast, breaking down the UNM loss at Nevada and then previewing some of the big anticipated game on Saturday, sold-out Pitt against San Diego State. And a little bit later in the show, I'll be dropping a discount code for some of the people tuning in. We got some new merch being dropped by the Albuquerque Duke store for this hat, specifically New Era Lobo Louis with the cream top cherry bill. So stay tuned for that. I'll drop a discount code for first 25 shoppers to head over to the shop. You can buy online or at the store itself and get 20% off. So stay tuned and locked in. But without further ado, let's get introduced to the panel. Voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs and a fan of the Lobos since 1970, and one of the most knowledgeable basketball minds and hoopers that I know, Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, what's up, man? How you feeling?
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thanks for the introduction, and looking forward to it. I'm glad we got Coach Mason on, and we've been trying to get him on for a while. I had a chance to go down to ABC today, take a little visit, so looking forward to getting it going.
Yeah, and without further ado, Brendan Mason, ABC Prep founder, president, coach, you name it, he does it. Only took us a month and a half to get him lined up for his show, but he's a busy guy. Coach, how you feeling, man?
I'm doing good. You know, one thing I don't really do anymore is coach. You know, Chris Perez is kind of taking over the ABC hat with the coaching thing. He's been doing great, but I appreciate the praise and all that kind of stuff. Thank you very much.
Busy world over at ABC, and now you guys had a big tournament showcase this past weekend. You guys played yesterday, but a lot of movement around there. Ed, I'm going to hand it over to you, man, because I think you know more about this world than I do, so I don't want to steal your thunder.
Mace, again, thanks for coming on, and you're still one of the few people that I know that played in New Mexico State and coached at New Mexico and New Mexico State, and I always marvel at that because Jimmy Taylor, I told you, the ex-Aggie, was the only one to play at New Mexico State and then transfer to New Mexico. I remember Jimmy Taylor well. You're always walking that Aggie Lobo line, and around here it's Lobo City, but you do it, and you do it with grace and class, and good to have you on. And, you know, I had a chance, like I said, to go down there today. And, you know, I got to say, I saw two of the greatest Lobos ever, and J.R. Giddings and Doris Gary. They're working, putting in work, man.
Yes,
and,
sir.
Yeah. And I told them both that back in the day when, you know, I was 12 or 13, that was the only place to play. We didn't have AAU. It was the Old Town Boys Club or the Heights Boys Club. So I told them, you know, busted a lot of people up back then in the day, back over there, man, at the Old Town Boys Club. And just looking at it brought back a lot of memories. And you've done a great job with the facility, obviously, and doing some great things there. And I got a chance to talk to Chris Pettis, who's not only a coach but a teacher. And I told him I want to take more of a tour. I want to sit in because when I'm around basketball, it's just, you know, I got to be around it. And I was glad I stopped by today. Sometimes I don't get a chance to get out that much. But Mace, you had a tournament this weekend. Tell us how ABC did.
As a program, our national team did extremely well. They did a great job. They went 2-0 this weekend, led by Caden Miller. Caden Miller's a 2028 kid that's born here in New Mexico that has 10 Division I offers. He's been shooting the ball lights out. He averaged 29 a game here this weekend. He probably made 15 3-pointers in 2 games. I'm just throwing numbers out right now. But he's definitely picking up some steam, and he's going to play some Nike EYBL ball this year. So we're happy for him. We have a football player in Evan Nanez who won a state championship at Cleveland, but he's our starting point guard. He has 2 Division I offers. He did a great job this weekend as well. Big DJ Smith, who's 6'11", and he's committed to Southern Utah. He's from Denison, Texas. He was close to a triple-double. He had 20 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists. Carter Vasquez, I could go down the line, but one thing that I would like to say is that these kids are at the end of the year right now. Coach CP has 25 wins, first time in ABC Prep history we've had that many wins and a top 25 win. These kids are getting better and better, and they're not slacking off. They're working harder as the season goes on. And I'm proud to see that. That says something about the Chris Perez and J.R. Giddens and, the staff, Ben Miller, who's in the weight room with the guys on down the line. And I just appreciate all of those guys and what they're doing for the program and these kids in this community.
You know what? You mentioned all those guys. I saw Evan Nanez today, and I asked Chris about him, Coach Pettis. And I said, man, I bet Zach Cole is like just pulling his hair because there would have been no tie in that district if Evan plays for Cleveland. Nothing against Volcano Vista and Rio Rancho. You look at him, he's a fast twitch. I could tell right away they're going down court, dribbling the ball between their legs. He looks like that athlete, man. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say he is. And I mean, all the high school basketball coaches know Evan Nanez. He's grew up here. He's played AAU. Everybody knows him. And I will definitely second what you said. I couldn't imagine him, Remy Albright, Bryson, and AJ Vigil and all those guys on one team. It would be hard to beat those guys if he's on the floor with them.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, hey, Coach, you were exchanging messages with me earlier today, and your relationship, I guess the reputation of ABC basketball now on the national level, relationships with D1, D2 coaches from all over the country. You had the Mizzou head coach, Coach Dennis Gates, in town today, visiting Brandon Mason Jr. What's up, Brandon? How are you, man?
Good. How you doing?
Good. And I just want to know from your perspective, like when you first started this thing, right? Like, did you anticipate the notoriety that maybe ABC might carry into a national scene? And then is that kind of, I guess, your reputation growing year over year now that you guys are starting to build more relationships with Division I programs?
Yeah, you know what? I definitely, I don't want to say I envisioned it. Definitely grateful for it, where we started and where we are now and where we headed. I did have some guidance early on. When I stopped coaching at UNM, I had people like Ryan Silver and John Ortega and Brian Sitter. People reached out to me and said, man, like, what are you going to do next? You going to get back into coaching? And I said, well, no, not right now. But I had a lot of people push me in the right direction. I know when I was coaching at UNM, I would fly out to Phoenix and I would go to Arizona Campus Prep and I would offer 6 or 7 kids, the Ty Washingtons, the Frankie Collins, and, guys like that. And so I was wondering, like, why New Mexico? Why don't we have a prep school? There's one in Colorado. There's one they're in Texas. They're in Phoenix. They're everywhere around us except for here. And, in my mind, I just thought that it would be a good opportunity to give guys, different opportunities here that they have other places. And I mean, of course, we all know, like, Dylan Chavez, Marcus Wilson, Tyrell. It started with those guys first. And, our AAU program was able to pick up with the Jalen Hollins and Kenyon Aguino. And then the next thing you know, Bella Hines comes over. And, it was just, and not that we did anything special for those people. We did give a platform, But I'm a big believer in genetics and the parents and the kids that put in the work, and I'll stand by that any day. We do have a platform and it's growing, and my relationships have definitely helped a lot of people. But today was special because Dennis Gates actually, we played AAU together back in Chicago in high school, and now he has the #1 recruiting class in the country. He's followed Brandon since he was, like sixth, seventh grade. He's just, posting on social media. And he's always said, he told us when he was in like sixth grade, he said, "Hey, I just want you to know one day I'm gonna be recruiting you." And he said, "I'm not gonna even talk to your father. I'm gonna talk to you and your mom." And he actually came through on his word. And the first day you could call 2027s, he called Brandon Jr. and his mom and Selena. And the next thing you know, they beat Tennessee, a top 22 program in the country. And he bought a next day ticket and flew out here to see us.
Wow.
Yeah, and that says a lot. I mean, to make a pit stop and not only see your players, but kind of see the program and see kind of where the program's headed. And I know that when we had you on, it's been a while, maybe a few months, and you were partnering up with APS, and I kind of understand maybe that dynamic can cause a little bit of friction because you have players that are leaving APS and kind of entering the prep school
Mhm.
kind of configuration. But I don't think AAU by itself can get a player ready like your son Brandon Jr. ready for college just quite like a prep school can. What do you think the main like differentiation is? Like, what are the key benefits of maybe entering a prep school program like that for some of the top end athletes?
So the difference is, nowadays, the game has definitely changed from, like, I played high school basketball in Chicago, but times were different. That was in 1995. You know what I'm saying? So nowadays, if you look at it, there's 3 AAU live periods. In those 3 live periods, that's 3 days. That's 9 days, basically spring and summer, where Division I coaches can come see you. So you're putting all your marbles, if you're a New Mexico kid, into those 9 days, right? But the entire high school season and fall season while the kids are playing football, those are live periods. And that's where we explode because you have 100 prep teams playing in the fall from September and October and November. We've already played in front of UCLA, USC, New Mexico State, Colorado State. We've already played 20 games in front of college coaches. And those are times that our kids probably are missing out on opportunities because the fall and the winter is almost bigger than it is during the spring and summer. And so having it year round and that exposure just gives you a better opportunity. But I'll be honest, nothing is guaranteed. We had Kenyon Aguino, and he played AAU and played 4 years at Volcano, and he's starting at Montana. So I don't think there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just what you put in is what you get out of it. And it's just another option. And for my son, this was a good option for him that he chose.
Yeah. Ed,
Brandon Jr., I want to ask you, I think the last time we had you on, you had 19 offers, I believe, Division I. What are you up to now?
20 Division I offers.
Okay. And it's exciting. It's got to be exciting when your dad tells that story, because your dad's been around a part of basketball for many years. And then to have you, I told your dad, I saw you on a flight back this summer and you were talking about ball screens. So you were talking the language, man. It's always a part of you. But I got to ask you this. And I think when, we had Coach Pettis on a couple of months ago, and I want to make sure that people understand, take us through a day at ABC, because, it is basketball training. You've got weight training. I didn't see the whole facility, but talk to us a little bit about an average day, and let people know too. It's Coach Pettis is also a teacher, and I think the world of Chris, man. I really like him a lot. But go through an average day at ABC Prep, what you guys do besides just the basketball training.
Well, Coach Chris Perez does a great job of making sure that he's building leaders in this program. He expects everybody to get their 30 minutes to an hour before everything we do, so nobody's ever showing up late or has any excuses. You always want to be there on time for what you got planned. Right now, he's currently doing this leadership book where everybody's taking turns reading and answering questions and stuff. It's a great thing just to build everybody's characters for the future and just building like just great people outside of basketball, just building characteristics for just jobs and everything else you'd want to do besides the basketball. we also do. He loves being in the gym with the weights. He makes sure he's on everybody, finishing every rep, doing extra reps, extra sets, just pushing you to your limits to just make sure you can be always at your top and at your best at everything you're doing.
I think it says a lot when you say outside of basketball, because basketball will end someday for a lot of these young guys, and there has to be a plan after. I used to say that to the kids I coach. Hey, basketball's fun, but what do you have planned at? What are you going to do after? And that's good. 'Cause I think a guy like Chris, you mentioned, he's going to make you work. He's not going to let you cheat anybody. Don't cheat the team. Don't cheat me. Finish. But I think a guy like that also inspires people to be leaders, to not want to quit, to win at life, not just basketball. You got a great team. You have a great program there, but there's winning outside of basketball. And I think he, just talking to him today, I got about 10 minutes with him today. And I love to talk to him because he's such an intelligent guy and cares. I think that's the other thing. Talk to us a little bit about, besides your dad, who's a great coach, has been coach at the college level. Talk a little bit about Coach Giddings, Coach Pettis, Coach Gary. I mean, the staff there. Coach Gary works with the female ABC, and his daughter is about, man, post time. That's post move there. Old school, man. Great footwork. I was watching her. I'm like, man, and Doris is one of the greatest Lobo point guards there ever was. And that's a great company there. Brandon, Mason Sr., that great company. But
Definitely.
Tell us a little bit about. I got just a little taste today when I stepped in and saw them working with Coach Giddings and Coach Pettis. Tell us a little bit about the staff. Mason Jr., tell us a little bit about the overall staff.
One thing I would say that definitely pushed my game to another level was working out with Coach Doris. He just helped sharpen so many different levels of my game, and just all scoring at all three levels, getting to the basket, taking the bump, getting to my mid range, getting to my spot, making sure I'm able to catch and shoot threes off of the dribble. And just, I would say he definitely really sharpened my game up to be the person who I am today on the offensive side of the court.
Let me ask you real quick, and then we'll move on to Coach Mason. What about the defensive end? I know, again, you see JR. JR was a first-round pick of the Boston Celtics, man. People may forget that. And I remember Coach Giddings telling me that when he played for Coach Alford, Coach Alford came in his senior year, that one huddle, Coach Alford cussed him out for 5 minutes straight, man. So, yeah, I remember him saying that. And so talk about, the offense. I get the offense. I get it. You run a lot of actions. What about the defense, man? Tell us about that.
I would say I'm definitely a really good shot blocker. I take pride in timing the defender's shot and just going and getting it out of the air, because I use my length and my height really well. And it's just my greatest advantage. Coach Giddings don't let me take a break on defense at all. So I'd say he's really pushing me to another level to expand my game and just to a whole different level, just to be that dog who he was. He was a dog on the court. He was offensively doing well, but also if he wasn't doing good offensively, he just had that defense that he had. And so he just wants to make sure he's passing that on to me, and I'm doing well in that. So every day in practice, I'm getting yelled at for standing up too straight, or even if you know what I mean? So that's just how it is. So
you're getting it from Coach Pettis, from Coach Gary, from Dad, and Coach Giddings, and probably Mom too, man. It goes down the line. But I think it's all for it's all. Let me ask you this: for Lobo fans, we are the Pit Press. For Lobo fans listening, have any one of those 2021 offers been from the University of New Mexico?
Yes, sir.
Good. Lobo fans are going to want to know that.
Can we say something about the Lobos?
Go ahead, Coach.
Coach Olin and Coach Roberts and UNM staff are doing a fantastic job of recruiting Brandon Mason Jr. Period.
You know what? That's great to hear. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Because, Mace, you coach with the Lobos, man. You coach with the Aggies, and we our show is around the Lobos. We're going to break down the you know what is around here, Mace. I was on with Kenny Thomas today, and we talk about that. When the Lobos lose around here, it's like a 24 to 48 hour hangover, sometimes without the alcohol, right? People go crazy. When the Lobos are winning here, it's euphoria, man. When they lose, you already know, Mace. You already know, man. But just a couple more questions for you, Mace. What's next for ABC, man? You guys just had a big tournament here. What's next and you're going to keep going, keep rolling, keep moving, keep getting kids exposure. You mentioned Dylan Chavez, Awino, Jalen Holland, Bella Hines, a lot of great graduates from ABC. Tell us what's next for ABC.
Well, the next thing, Coach Perez, Coach Giddens, Coach KJ Ford, they'll be taking our national team to Phoenix to play in the NSPA playoffs. So they got to win 4 games in 4 days to win a championship in Phoenix at the facility at PHH. So we want to be able to knock that down and try to win a championship and get Coach Chris Perez as close to 30 wins as possible because he's knocking on the door. And then our girls program as possibly could make the grind session playoffs for the second year in a row. Coach Gary's doing a fantastic job with those young ladies, definitely led by Tamaya Gary, who's incredible and just dominating every single game. So we definitely have a playoff that we're focused on as a staff and as an organization with those teams. And then after that, we're going to move through AAU. But the recruiting piece and what we're going to do for next year is we have to continue to get better. We have to continue to put people in college. And we want to raise those numbers from 65 kids in college in 4 years and get to reach to that 100 mark.
You know, Juve, your program's done a fantastic job. You've been at it now, Mace, for how long now? Is it 8, 9 years now? How long has it been?
Well, I mean, I coached Division I basketball for 8, but here at ABC, this is year 5.
Year 5. Yeah,
Yep.
and you've secured a facility, like I said, the former Robert Gallegos, was it? Robert Gallegos and Chester Fuller
Chester
Jr.
Fuller. Yep.
owned that facility for a long time, and they turned it over to you. And I know Skip Skarsgård has been instrumental in that and helping you out there too. And when I went in there this morning, the roof's the same, the wood floor. It looks good, man. It looks good. Went and saw
Thank
the
you.
weight room. I want to take a tour. I want to take a tour of the whole place one time, man. I'm glad I got out there because a lot of times I just have my routine where I stay within 10 miles of my house, you know. And
Hey,
happen to
shout
be
out
Yeah.
out to Alex Kirk too, because he donates weight equipment in here and he does a lot for our program as well. Shout out to Alex Kirk, Lobo legend.
Oh yeah, man! Another Los Alamos former Los Alamos product, man. So yeah, playing in Japan, I believe.
Yep.
Eric, did you have anything left for Coach Mason?
I do. I got one question each for both. I'll start with Brandon Jr. But so 20 Division I offers, man, that's incredible, especially coming from New Mexico. So congratulations on that. I know that you're still hungry. You could just tell by the way you talk about it. But I mean, what are these coaches talking to you about? I know it's not all about basketball. They want to know about who Brandon Jr. is. What is it? What are his goals outside of basketball? What kind of person is he off the court? Because they're not only recruiting a basketball player, they're recruiting a future professional, a future father, a teammate, a friend on campus, things like that. Now, like, what are they talking to you about, and what about these conversations are helping you kind of grow as an individual?
Just stuff I like to do off the court, stuff that takes my mind from all the hard work that I put in. One thing is I do love to golf. I like off the court. I like to play golf with Coach Chris Perez. So we talk about golfing a lot, fishing too, just stuff to get my mind off of the game and just really just ease all the stress that this college stuff is putting on me. So, but it's also a good thing. So, yeah. And also, I pray a lot. I'm a big man of God, so I love praying and always just talking about God and everything I do. So all thanks to Him first off. So
Right on, man. Right on. Last one for you, Coach, and then we'll let you guys go. We appreciate you guys jumping on the pit press, but I actually had this all kind of came about us getting reconnected. I reached out to one of our colleagues who connected with your wife, and we ended up having a conversation because there's a lot of mutual connections within the community. I know that you guys are trying to connect with local businesses, trying to spread your word. What is the next phase of that in your mind for ABC? How do you start kind of connecting with more corporations around not only Albuquerque, but the state of New Mexico, helping grow your brand, helping kind of drive in some revenue to support what you guys are doing? Because ABC Prep is a representation of not only Albuquerque, but New Mexico youth, right? So I think a lot of people want to get behind that. What would be your message to maybe potential sponsors or supporters that might be tuning in?
I mean, the message is, as of now, we've, this year we probably have 14 people that have received some type of scholarship or help or funding. We started the Mason Spotlight Foundation, a nonprofit where we can receive donations and we can give more scholarships to help our kids in our community. Because at the end of the day, this is expensive what we do. We're playing 50 games a prep season and only 8 of them are in New Mexico. So you can imagine what that travel looks like for what we're trying to do and housing and meals and different things that we're trying to do here. So any help that we can always get is appreciative. Senator Mo Maestas had us come to Santa Fe, and he did a great job of speaking for us and talking about ABC and ABC Prep. So the word is getting out. But we're definitely still looking for continued support. We would love to grow our school, build bigger gyms, bigger classrooms, bigger staffs, because at all these former college basketball players and people that we would love that played in that pit or played at the Pan Am, even played at Northern New Mexico or Western New Mexico or Eastern New Mexico. I love to support former college basketball players that are still trying to figure it out, want to get into coaching, give them an avenue to come here, get paid, help the youth. And I used to be one of those guys, and I know how it is to still be trying to figure it out. So I want to support the community for the former players and adults and the youth as well.
No, that's awesome. And it's interesting you bring up Northern New Mexico. I'm actually really good friends and played high school ball with Mike Dominguez. So I know that they're having a successful season, man. He was a good player, but I think they made the playoffs too, didn't they?
Yeah. Doesn't he have Jaquan Hill from Volcano?
He does.
Yeah.
He's tearing it up. Yep. I'm happy for him and proud of him.
So go Ed, any last thoughts before we let these guys go?
No, you know what, Coach and Brandon Jr., thanks so much for joining us. Mace, I'll definitely stop by again, man. I enjoyed my little brief time there, and just being around basketball, I think, energizes someone that's been around basketball my whole life. So any part of it, you get in there, and I'm like, I told my wife, I said, honey, I need to get out more, man. I it's not like I'm a recluse. I have my pattern, and sometimes you need to break it and enjoy life and see what people are doing in the community, and that's important to me, man. So I appreciate your time. You and you know what, Brandon Jr., you're a very mature young man, and you've got great guidance, man, by your dad, your mom, Coach Giddings, all those people around you, man. And someday you'll look back and you'll think, gosh, and you're a man of faith, a young man of faith. You look back and you'll say, God bless me abundantly, because I tell my granddaughter, I said, honey, not everybody has, the blessings we have, man. And not everybody has the blessings you have, man. And don't forget that. I know you won't. You got some great guidance, man. And just hearing you talking on the mature level that you are, you're going to go long, far in life, basketball, and whatever else you do. So best of luck.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, of course. We're going to take a quick commercial break, guys. Again, thank you to Brandon Mason, coach, president, and Brandon Mason Jr., maybe potential future Lobo. Speak that into existence. But I'm Eric Olton for Ed Nunez, Brandon Mason, and Brandon Mason Jr. You're watching the Pit Press. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Not just a day or a week. This President's Day event lasts all month long at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe. Find monumental savings on our best Ford selection, like a new 2026 Ford Escape plug-in hybrid, now $5,800 off MSRP. Or a new 2025 Ford Bronco Sport, just $400 a month, lease for 36 months. So hurry and save during this President's Day event all month long at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe.
everybody? Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. Ed, I'm going to keep it on you while I get the screen adjusted. We're going to be joined on the second half of our show by Chiri Heat Check podcast with Rick Thompson. As you can see, Rick, welcome to the show, man. And then Nick Nunez is on screen, but kind of behind the scenes. I'm going to try to get him on right now. But Ed, what'd you think about ABC, man? I think the evolution over the last 5 years and what Brandon Mason is doing, man, it's grown exponentially. And I mean, between all the players that have come through that program and current players right now, and they've got to have a collective at least 50 to 60 division win offers, which is, I mean, pretty impressive stuff, man. What did you take away from walking the facility today?
You know what? Like I said, a lot of memories because there used to be the Old Town Boys Club when I played. You know, that's all we had. We didn't have AAU basketball. We had that's when I was playing for Pius Summer League, and you know, our jerseys were T-shirts that we dyed. You'll get a kick out of this, Rick. That we dyed gold and put black magic marker on them and said Pius. Those were our jerseys, man. So I think when I walked in there, I had a lot of memories. But seeing them all with their seeing Doris, seeing Coach Giddings and Coach Pettis, you know, you see them there live, and you're like, okay. And I was watching the workouts they were doing, and just watching them coach and teach. So I think, you know, I'm not going to lie to you, and I think Nick would probably tell you the same thing. When they first came out, there were some APS coaches that weren't happy about it. There's still some coaches that aren't fans because, you know, they're taking some of their players and you know, and Coach Mason would say we're giving them other opportunities. So I'm glad we're partnering with them. I think they're running look at Mason Jr., man. He's got 19, 20, or he's got 21 offers. So I wish them luck, man. I do. I think they're doing a good thing over there. And I'm glad I was able to stop by today and just take a brief walk around.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad we got them on finally. It took a little bit to get them, but hey guys, Nick, Rick, welcome to the show. Nick, the attorney, you've been doing a lot of writing and covering of games for us, man. Welcome to the show. How you been?
What's going on, guys? Good to be with you. Great interview with Brandon Mason Sr. and Brandon Mason Jr. Really like what's going on at ABC Prep, man. I saw a lot of commenters on the live show encouraging Brandon Mason Jr. to be a Lobo. That would be great, but great to be with you guys, ready to talk Lobo basketball.
Yeah, man, that's exciting stuff. I don't remember having that high side of a recruit come out of New Mexico in quite some time, but a lot of success there. And from the Cherry Heat Check podcast, and formerly one of the Pit Press guys that kind of started this with us, Ricky Thompson. Rick, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm great, guys. Thanks for having me back on. Let me know if I sound weird or anything. I just wanted to throw out there that I've been aware of Brandon Mason growing up. He would play at River Point Sports and Wellness after his college days or in the summer, mix it up there with us in the men's leagues or in the pickup games. And back in those days, like Ed is saying, all the best players used to play pickup at River Point in the mid 2000s. And you would have Harvey Hale, Josh Jenkins, Roman Andrade, Casey Cunningham, like an all-metro team of Albuquerque playing with a mix of old guys that just took off work from Intel. So it was great times, but then you would get college players like Brandon Mason, the late Greg Brown would always be in there. Hunter would be there every Sunday. So those are the kind of games I grew up with. It's cool to see what Mace has done with it. And I'm really proud to see that in Albuquerque, but ready to talk some Lobos with you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Rick, you just threw out a name I haven't heard in a really long time, man. Josh Jenkins, Valley High School. That guy was so good, man. Extremely undersized, but the bounce and the quickness and
he was also an Aggie for 1 year.
Oh, man. I remember playing against him in New Mexico games, and he basically unguardable. Unguardable probably at the college level too, just because of how lightning fast he was. Nick, I don't know if that name resonates with you at all. He might be a little bit. He's older than I am, so I know that he's older than you, but you might be familiar with this game.
Oh, dude, I'm familiar with this game because when I was in elementary school, he was like my favorite high school basketball player ever, man. I mean, just watching some of the games that he had at Valley, some of the battles he had with Rio Grande. Man, you know, my dad and I are around high school basketball almost every week. And, you know, the gyms, I'm sure you guys probably already know this, but the atmospheres aren't quite the same, man. Rick, I'm sure you remember back in the early 2000s, gyms used to get packed. I remember those Cibola games that used to get packed with like Jake Bowe, Jude Roybal. So yeah, man, I definitely am familiar with Josh's game. I saw him at the I think it was at the exhibition game against Northern Arizona. He had seats in front of Media Row. Talked to him and caught up with him a little bit. So yeah, man, that brings back some memories.
Man, yeah, really good memories. Before we
So
do get
wait,
into,
before you go,
ahead,
Eric,
Rick.
you were
Yeah, go
saying
ahead.
who was probably the most highly recruited player since B. Mace Jr. I would think it might have to be Harvey Hale from Rio Grande, who went to Wake Forest. We could go back and look at his offers. Casey Cunningham obviously went to USC. He probably had a lot, but let's make that a research project.
That would be a fun take to get involved in. I remember playing against Harvey too, man. That Rio Grande team was good. His junior year, so I think our junior year, they had Alex White. I think they had Cleveland. Was it Cleveland Fields or what was his last name?
Files,
Files.
Cleveland Files. Yeah.
Cleveland Files. Dude, they were loaded. I think a lot of people now don't realize how many good basketball players come out of Albuquerque, and it's really kind of slept on. And I think even now with the players that are around Albuquerque, State of New Mexico, and that are kind of transferring over to ABC, not all of them, because I know there's still some good ones around, but that's a good little project to look into. I'll take you up on that, Rick, help you out. But before we kind of jump into Lobo basketball, I do want to make an announcement. We've been sharing on social media the last 2 days. We've partnered up with the Albuquerque Duke store on a new hat release. The hat I'm wearing right now, the cherry and white Lobo Louis. It's a little bit of a cream top. The Albuquerque Duke store is going to be releasing it officially, exclusively at their store tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. And we've been given a special discount code for the Pit Press. So the first 25 shoppers to use the Pit Press code to go on, you're going to get 25% off this hat. So if you want to get a closer look at it, here it is. Yep, so stop by the Albuquerque Duke store tomorrow. They open at 10 in the morning, and here is that discount code, so make sure you keep track of it if you want to get 20% off. Only available to the first 25 shoppers. Use code PPRESSDukes1. You can shop in the store, or you can actually use that code online. So, Rick, I know you're out in the West Coast. So if you want to get dibs on it, man, make sure you're logged in at 10 a.m. right on the dot to go ahead and place that purchase. So first 25 people get 20% off. P-Press Dukes 1. Make sure you ask for Steve and Fredo. Being involved with those guys at the Duke store has been pretty fun. A lot goes into the hat creations. I know that they've released a lot of new merch recently. The logo that Rick's wearing on his shirt there, they do have that 90s retro style in stock, hoodies, hats, to just t-shirts in general. So really glad that they brought that stuff back. But enough of me blabbering on about our sponsors and merchandise talk. Let's get into Lobo Hoops, guys. Nick, I'm going to pass this one over to you first, man. So the Lobos fall at Nevada 67-60. Somewhat of a, I wouldn't call it a barn burner. It was a really slow-paced game, low-scoring game there in the first half, 23-23, but things really started to get going there in the second half. Lobos end up building a lead, a 9-0 lead there in the second half, and kind of watched it slowly slip away, which was really brutal to watch. Some missed free throws, some uncharacteristic turnovers. You wrote a recap talking about that, man. What was your impression of the game?
Yeah, dude, the Lobos let one slip away, man. I think that's kind of the consensus that I've seen from Lobo fans. You know, we're up You're right. We go up 40. We were up by 9, 40-31. Then it's kind of back and forth. And then JT Rock hits that three from the top of the key. It's 52-46 with about 7 minutes left. And then from there, man, we turn the ball over quite a bit. The turnovers that come to mind are that pass from Uriah Tenet over Dayton Albury's head. Dayton Albury had another one where he was trying to dribble into traffic. The missed free throws, Uriah Tenet missed the front end of a 1-and-1. Tomislav Boljan missed 2 free throws when we're down 1. And then we just couldn't get, great quality shots. There were a couple in there. If you go back and watch, I watched the final 8 minutes earlier today. But Luke Hopt has some takes to the rim. I think Nevada's length and athleticism just challenged them. Man, we let one slip away because of missed free throws. Couldn't rebound the basketball either. We got beat 44-32 on the glass. Nevada, I think, didn't kill us with second chance points, but just got extra possessions, limited our offense. I think Nevada's size, athleticism, length really bothered us in a lot of ways. On the offensive end, Tomislav Boljan, not really a factor. Jake Hall got into the game in spurts, but he missed his last 4 shots and missed 3 shots when we needed a bucket. So it was unfortunate, man. We let one slip away.
Hey, Rick, I'm going to hand this one to you next. And Ed, I'm going to go to you following that. But Rick, you and I were texting on and off throughout the game. And I think it was pretty apparent that Elijah Price was just not a good matchup for this Lobo team. It really tough to guard. Rock had a hard time. Boljan had a hard time. Price ended up finishing with 21 points, but he kind of extended his offense out, not only to around the elbow, but he also did hit 2 threes there in the first half. Man, what do you take away from his game? And does he just post a bad matchup for UNM?
Right. He started this game with a 3, I think, much like the first time around. He was also able to hit that mid-range jumper, and it did seem like when Rock is in there and they're playing that zone, he's unwilling to come out past the free throw line, and sometimes Rock just jumps straight up in the air, even though he's like 5 feet away, which is kind of funny as if he's going to block the shot. But Price's game has evolved, obviously being able to hit that jumper, but then he made all the clutch free throws down the stretch, even though they hit the rim 3 or 4 times. While the Lobos were missing, he was making, adding 4 blocks on the defensive end, able to come from out of nowhere and erase shots. So, the transfer from Fresno, just fantastic. I think he's an all-conference type player, especially after that performance. But I would have to agree with you, Eric. It's just a matchup, along with when they had Armo trading in. It just seemed like those 2 bigs together was a little bit too physical for UNM. Credit Boljan for making a couple field goals down the stretch finally, but like Nick mentioned, he missed those 3 critical free throws. So I don't know. Price just outplayed our bigs, even though I think Rock had 8 points in his minutes. His defense in this game wasn't his best this time around.
Hey, Ed, I want to kind of stay focused there. I think it's been pretty obvious, not only in this group, but just kind of on Twitter, and a lot of people are talking about it. But the production that UNM has gotten from Boljan has progressively gone down, especially towards the second half of conference play. I don't know if you can really attribute it to any specific thing. Maybe he's forcing a little bit. Maybe he's kind of playing out of position, or maybe he's forcing it a little bit. What has been your impression of his game, kind of just being on the frustrated end of things? I mean, you kind of played that position. You're very critical and know the position well. So, I mean, what has been your take on Boljan's production decline?
I thought the frustration started at Boise State. We saw that he put his shoulder in the high breather and got a foul and then got a tee. So I thought he was real frustrated then. And I thought Nick and I talked a little bit about this against Nevada. Nick made a good point that against teams with length, New Mexico State, Boise State, and Nevada, New Mexico has struggled, and Boljan has struggled. Kenny Thompson and I talked about it today. He can finish strong on the right-hand side. He's got a little jump hook that isn't bad. He pulled through nicely with the left hand on the right side. It was a beautiful move, but he has struggled. He's not getting as many offensive rebounds. He was able to do that too. And sometimes at the top of the key, he'd rip through, and if nobody was guarding him, a little show and go, a little pass fake, and then hammer time. but I think he's lost a little bit of moxie, a little bit of confidence there. And JT Rock was able to stretch the floor a little bit. We haven't seen much from him in the post game. I don't know that Bouillon has a lot of tools in his post bag, but I thought he struggled the other night. And I thought, and during the last 5 minutes of the game, Nevada finished and executed, and New Mexico didn't. And Nevada's defense was very good. They scored on their last 5 possessions. Eric Olin said New Mexico had too many empty possessions. They did. I thought, and Albury said it in the paper, but I thought this too. I thought Nevada wanted it more. I really did. So that's my take there, Eric.
Yeah, hey, Nick, I'm going to hand this next one to you, man. But I thought the key difference maker in this game, I think it's pretty easy to point to a player like Elijah Price because he did finish with 21 points, was just a bad matchup like we had mentioned. But Von Weems, man, came out 20 points. To me, kind of seemed like the X factor in this game. Came up with some loose balls, finished around the basket, and was, I wouldn't say unguardable, but just he always seemed to get a basket when Nevada needed it the most. And he wasn't kind of a big time contributor in the first matchup with the Lobos. But talking with Chris Murray from the Nevada Sportsnet on the podcast we did prior to the last game, he talked about Von Weems kind of being that guy, just not being as consistent. I mean, what was your takeaway from his game? Because I don't think a lot of people anticipated him having the impact that he did.
Yeah, man. I mean, he gave the Lobos problems back in Albuquerque. He had 16 points in that game. For me, him just down the stretch, I think he scored 6 of Nevada's 8 at that point where they took the lead. And if you go back and watch, almost all those shots are at the rim. So I thought UNM just struggled to guard him one-on-one, man. I thought he got to the basket. There was one time Jake Hall stripped him, but he ended up getting it back. So yeah, man, him and Corey Camper, shot 1 for 7 from the 3-point line. He only knocked down 1 3, and he was a 45% 3-point shooter coming into this game. But he got into the paint, Alford runs those pin down screens for him. So he got free. I think for me, Eric, the way that Camper and Weems scored down the stretch, I thought Rick did a great job of breaking down Price. But just the way that they scored, man, I think this Lobo team has struggled guarding the basketball one-on-one at times. Look at how they were against Fresno State. I mean, Fresno State got into the paint at will on their dribble drive scheme. Some of that was in transition. But I just think UNM's got to be better guarding the basketball one-on-one. They couldn't do it with Weems and Camper down the stretch. And that was certainly a factor for why they lost.
And that's going to be an important piece for us to kind of track as we wrap up the season here. I think it's important that the Lobos hang on to one of the top 4 seeds because no one wants to have to win 4 games in 4 days in Vegas just based on how hard it is. But Rick, I'm going to go back to you with this one because, again, we were texting during the game, and I had mentioned to you that Nevada went on 2 separate 7-0 runs there in the second half to kind of pull ahead. And both of those runs were kind of fueled by just uncharacteristic Lobo turnovers. I think we saw kind of a high volume of balls being picked low, right? Guys getting into the lane, keeping the ball low and just getting stolen away and end up running over into transition points for Nevada. I don't want to point to this as maybe being a trend with UNM, but what are you making of the turnovers late in these games?
It's confusing, right? Because Albury has 5 turnovers in this game. The game before, he has 0 turnovers. And in this game, he looked like he reverted back to some of his old ways where he's out of control when he hits the paint and doesn't take a jump stop, play off 2 feet in order to make a good decision. He takes flight into the air and then makes the decision, which doesn't have a high probability of ending well. So it starts with the point guard, and I think that all trickles down to why Bouillon is struggling. They don't have a point guard that distributes the basketball consistently to places where these guys can score. Look at Hall, how hard it was for him to get those, I think, 6 field goals in this game because he's having to work so hard for it as well. One thing, though, that Mr. Glue himself, Luke Hopt, I can't take any longer is when he dribbles to the block and he turns into glue himself and just stops dribbling. The double team comes and he's on the baseline. And he does that at least 2 or 3 times a game. So to me, it just comes down to decision making and not putting themselves in those situations. I know you have to credit the defense, and it's gonna get even harder in this next game against San Diego State, but they have to find ways to protect the ball. I don't know what it is, Eric. What do you think it is? You played guard.
No, I think it could be a little carelessness. I also think it could be that the defensive pressure on the other side is picking up, especially on the road. You could also point to maybe the youth, right? Nick talked about one of the turnovers that why am I spacing his name? That the freshman
Tannett.
guard Tannett had at half court, where he kind of just panicked and threw the ball over Albury's head into the back court. So I just think getting out of rhythm, feeling a little bit rushed because of the defensive pressure, and then again the length. I don't think it's as easy for these guards to make their way into the lane when teams are starting to crash and prevent some of those drives to get into the rim. So Lobos are having to make quick decisions, decisive decisions on what to do next. But I think when they do start playing well is when they are penetrating, when they are looking to kick out for shots. I just think that sometimes the other teams are taking away first or second options, one of those options being Bouillon, which is causing some of that frustration. So then the Lobos are having to process kind of into the next step and into the next step after that, and it's kind of throwing some kinks into the rhythm of their offense. But one thing that hasn't really slowed down in this offense is the production of Jake Hall. Jake Hall ends up breaking a Mountain West scoring record for a freshman in the Mountain West, scoring 278 points, which surpassed Brandon McCoy of UNLV in 2017 and 2018. Ed, I'm going to pose this question to you, and I think we talk about it enough on this show, but just the production, the performance of Jake Hall, how incredible it is that the Lobos can rely on a true freshman to kind of be that guy. Is something like that sustainable now that I start to see maybe some of these things start to break down? They're a little bit kind of turnover happy here in the second half. They're missing free throws late. They're just kind of checking out of it mentally. Do you think a guy like Jake Hall is the guy that maybe they can kind of turn to right this ship?
Those things that you mentioned are correctable. I think the turnover with Tannett and Albury, Tannett threw it over Albury's head, and those are unforced turnovers. Those are the worst kind. So those are correctable. The free throw line is correctable. But I think one of the things that you mentioned that the other defenses are taking. You mentioned Coach Rodriguez mentioned this. Ray Rodriguez mentioned it. It's they've taken away your first and second and made you go to your third and fourth. And that's what they've done. You know, a lot of teams in the conference have adjusted defensively. Rick made a good point about over penetration with Albury. I thought he penetrated well against Fresno State. He had that competitive fire. Nick and I talked about that. He was not going to be denied. They were not going to lose that game. There's no way. Now, this game here, he kind of came with the same competitive fire, but Nevada, he was running into 6'10" or 6'8", and it didn't work. It didn't work as well as it did against Fresno State. And I think at the times that he's done well, is he did go Coach Olin. Every coach wants paint touches, paint, boom, or finish. And so, they came at him with length. And again, I think Coach. Remember, we had Ryan Berryman on last week, and he said when he worked for Coach Alford, we forget about that. What a great defensive coach he is. That how he taught defense. So I think New Mexico has the conference is adjusted. And even with Hop, you know, Rick's going to make a point about Hop here in a minute. He's a connector. If he hits a three, goes downhill, everybody starts feeding. Okay, we got to guard that guy. Kick, drive, kick, read and react. It's not a set play kind of offense. He trusts his guys. So I think that's kind of stopped a little bit. I think the defenses in the conference have adjusted. New Mexico's got San Diego State on Saturday, and we'll talk more about that. And Magoon Guath didn't play in the first game, and he's 7-1. So Brian Dutcher has to be saying, "Hey, man, they struggle with length. Let's see what they do on Saturday." But that's my take on that.
Rick.
Yeah, I think one thing that the Lobos have been able to rely on, and Olin has spoken about, is the scoring depth, right? Where they're able to get, 3 or 4 of their guys into double digits so that they're able to carry the team. And in this game, our big man Bullion only with 7 points, Chol with 0, and then Hopped with 2. Obviously, when two of your starters combine to have 2 points together, obviously not good results going to happen. But I know Luke Hop brings a lot of other things. He having key defensive stops in that Fresno game, so I'm not trying to degrade his value. But since he had that 30-point blowout game against Boise State where we actually lost, he's only had 20 points combined in the last 4 games after that 30-point game. So I think the lack of depth is starting to show. And Nick, I guess I'll throw this to you. Do you think this team is actually deep enough to win 2 out of these 3 final games or make a run in the conference tournament to compete with the 2 top teams that sit above them right now?
That's a concern, Rick. That's a valid concern. I've kind of thought about that. I mean, Tajavis Miller didn't really play a whole lot last night. So they're basically playing with 7 guys. And I mean, the numbers are what they are. Yeah, I have a concern about it. And, you know, this game wasn't a back-to-back, Rick, with Nevada, but I mean, it was 2 games in like 48 hours almost. And yeah, man, I mean, you know, I think their conditioning is fine. But when you get in foul trouble, or if you get worn down by bigger and physical and more athletic teams, I do think that's a concern. And so, yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of holes, not holes, but this team is showing us that they're not that invincible juggernaut that they were the first 10 games of the conference season. You know, when they started 8-2 or whatever it was. I mean, there's some holes there. And depth is absolutely one of them, Rick. It's a concern for sure.
Maybe that's a good time to transition, guys, because I think depth is going to be kind of a something to key on against the matchup against San Diego State. And before we do, let me transition screens here. San Diego State ends up going against Nevada last night and ends up kind of blowing them out. I don't think it was a close game. I think they end up pulling away like midway through the first half there. They end up beating Utah State, who's leading the conference, 89-72. Outscored Utah State 46-33 there in the first half. And, I mean, they were just outright more physical. San Diego State was hitting a lot of threes and got it from just about everyone. And I think right now San Diego State is probably the deepest team in the league. I think a close second might be Utah State, but San Diego State was at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They go 9, 10 guys of getting double-digit minutes. They end up scoring 42 bench points. I think at one point in the season, they were like in the top 20, maybe top 15 in the country in overall bench points or getting scoring from their bench. So in terms of production, I mean, that's just something the Lobos don't have the luxury of having, right? They rely on kind of a 7-man rotation, and it's really top heavy on who's able to score. So we'll start there. I don't know who has the first thought. Maybe Ed, I'll throw it over to you first, but this is going to be the second matchup that the Lobos play San Diego State. Obviously, San Diego State will have Guath this time around, but it's in front of a sold-out pit. Going to be a stripe out. A lot of excitement around Albuquerque. It's going to be on the big boy CBS, so a lot of anticipation there, but it's definitely a tough matchup, and maybe one of the last times we see San Diego State visit the pit for the foreseeable future. And what are you looking forward to on Saturday?
I think, you know, when you mentioned San Diego State, we talked about that today on Unfiltered about not seeing them anymore, you know, and that sucks. You know, that's been a great rivalry. So that, you know, I'll miss not seeing them in the pit or going down to Viejas and beating them there and playing them and watching that game. So I think Saturday, you mentioned the depth. I think one guy that they lost Chris Howell. That was a big part of their rotation. So when they lost him, you know, he averaged 6 points, right? But a connector, another guy like Jake Hopt has high basketball IQ, makes winning plays. Tajavis Miller, I think my son said, is kind of falling off the wayside. A couple of games ago, the guy was stretching the floor, hitting some threes, Now he's back iron, which means to me they're on the rim. He's just not making them, and they need him to make them. Milos Vucevic came in and seems like years ago now, had 19 points off the bench. We haven't seen his feet touch the floor in a while. And I think he'd be ready to play if Coach Olin needed him. He's a guy that I think Coach Olin trusts. Not right now, but I think those other things that Rick mentioned, with Jake Hopp, he's not. The game after he scored 30, he wasn't even looking for a shot the next game. And I think one thing about him, he doesn't go out of his lane. He takes shots when he has them, but they've closed that down, man. Other defenses have kind of closed him down, and he's what he averaged 8 or 10 a game. But those were important to me because when he started scoring those, then he opened the floor up, and then he started making passes. That's what they do: drive, kick. If Albury sees a lane, drives to the lane, dishes it off. So I think they're kind of out of whack a little bit. They got their remember they're down big against San Diego State to start the second half. They came back and had a real chance. Fouled Heidi with 8 seconds left. And he made both. He's a 37% free throw shooter, and he made them both. Coach Olin took a gamble that didn't work. So I think all those things are into play on Saturday. It's a 12 o'clock game. Should be a pit game, right? Sold out. Should be. Its fans should be at full throat, and we'll see what happens.
Hey, Nick, I'm going to go back to you on this one, man. First game against San Diego State, right? I think a lot of people can kind of just defer to Miles Bird as being maybe the leader of the San Diego State team. He has 21 points in the first matchup. Not sure what we're going to get out of him here, but as of recent, man, Reese Dixon Waters for San Diego State has kind of been leading the way for that team. He finished with 20 points last night. I know LZ Harrington, who's an extremely talented freshman, who's seeing more minutes, also finished in double figures. So that, again, I talked about how deep this team was, and not having to focus on a guy like Miles Bird kind of opens his game up a little bit. And I don't know how much time you've spent looking into San Diego State, but I mean, who are you keying on? Because really it's kind of a pick your poison.
They got a lot of shot makers, man. They do. I mean, last night it was Reese Dixon Waters. Saw him in the first half, man. He knocked down those corner threes. I think he was 3 for 6 from behind the line. He's their leading scorer, I think, at 12.6 or 12.7 points per game. But they got a lot of the same kind of guys that are long, athletic, good mid-range shooters. San Diego State doesn't shoot a ton of threes. I think they're 35% from the three-point line. But they got a lot of similar players that can kind of create their own shot, and they get into the mid-range. I mean, if you go on the CBB Analytics website and take a look at their shot profile, they take more mid-range jumpers than a lot of college basketball teams. And because they have guys that can shoot that shot. I mean, look at DeGorville last night. 12 points, 8 assists off the bench. I mean, they scored 45 bench points. Brian Dutcher called this game against Utah State last night their most complete game of the season. And I mean, it's kind of hard to disagree with that, man. If this San Diego State team looks like this is the kind of team that I think people thought at the beginning of the conference season, this is who this team is going to be. And, it's going to be a challenge for the Lobos, for sure.
Rick, I'm going to hand this one over to you next, man. We were just talking about depth, and we were just kind of being a little critical of the UNM bigs and how they handled guys like Elijah Price. But then you turn around and have to go in and face Guath and another big for San Diego State, who's kind of come into his own and might be one of the most slept on bigs in the conference, and Farrell Compton. How are they going to not only handle one of those guys, but how are they going to handle both?
I think it's more like 3, Eric, because you're forgetting Heidi, who starts the game, right? So
You're right,
they have
man.
3 interchangeable guys. Magoon Guath actually, I think, did play 10 minutes in that first matchup last night, having his 3rd or 4th medical comeback of the year because he hadn't really played many minutes before that. Last night, 9 points, 9 rebounds for Guath. Probably the best shot blocker in the conference. We know he won Defensive Player of the Year as a freshman last year in the conference. So it's obviously not a good matchup for New Mexico. But one thing that kind of has hampered San Diego State is that depth. When you're playing 11 guys, it's hard for the guys to know exactly what their role is, how many minutes they're going to play. And let's not forget, early in the year, San Diego State had this weird schedule where they didn't play as many games as the other teams early on. they played Air Force as their first conference game and then had 2 non-con games after that. So I think it's taking time for this team to understand what these limited roles are, as Dutcher has played up to 11 guys for most of the season. Jeremiah Odin transfer now seems like he is out, his minutes getting taken by Tay Simmons, and he's just another front court mate for these guys, Eric. Tay Simmons is built like a Greek god, and he's 18 or 19 years old. He had a fantastic game last night. For New Mexico, I think they're going to have to rely on the energy of the crowd, hopefully some of the youth of the San Diego State players, because they play a lot on their emotions. We've seen Miles Bird not really under control at times. Last night, I also saw they're getting so excited that it affects their play on the court, and they're running into Carson Templin unnecessarily and things of that nature. So as I don't think it's a good matchup, and there's not a way to sugarcoat it for UNM down low. I think there are ways if they can get them in foul trouble or get in their head early.
Yeah, no, you make a good point. And yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say that, yeah, this is simply a bad matchup for UNM. They absolutely have no shot of getting there. But we've seen this Lobo team kind of punch above their match kind of throughout the whole year, right? And or punch above their weight limit is how they say. And I'm going to throw this one over to you. So I'm going to throw kind of a stat at you that Rick let me know about. But between Hopt and Chol in the last game, they combined for 2 total points. That's 2 starters, 2 older starters. Man, you can't get that type of production in a game like this at home in a big-time matchup against the San Diego State squad for something that can bolster their resume to help kind of solidify their case or maybe their chances for an at-large. They had that chance at Nevada, but dropped that one. What do the Lobos have to do this time around? And I mean, you got to think they have to get more out of Hopt and Chol or more out of one or the other. What are your thoughts there?
You know, with Antonio Chol, I think when we saw him, a junior college All-American, you saw the tape on him. You're thinking, hey, he's going to fit perfectly into Coach Olin's offense. Likes to shoot a lot of threes. We saw what we saw on tape and it looked good. And I know Rick, you'd mentioned against Air Force, he got going a little bit, but what kind of competition was it against? Still, 20 points is 20 points. I thought, we'd see a little bit more. I think what we had Clayton Shields was on Unfiltered today, and his suggestion was run something early for Chol in the San Diego State game. Run a pick for him. See if you can get him going early. Maybe that gets him out of his doldrums. What you notice with him, it's 3 points or nothing. Once in a while, he started driving for mid-ranges and hitting a few. And then what he'll do is if he'll take one dribble, and if they stop him, he just looks to pass right away. They need more production. Not picking on him at all. They need more production from their 4, period. So when you have him and Luke Hopt, 2 starters, and they still almost won. They lost by 7. And they shot themselves in the foot with the rebounds and the free throws at the end. 12 of 21 won't cut it. They're still in it. So those 2, they're going to need more from those 2 on Saturday. And I think Clayton's suggestion wasn't a bad one. Run a play for him early, see if he gets going. That way he's not just standing in the corner, man. Sometimes not participating in the offense, looking kind of a little bit hesitant to shoot. So I think they're going to need him and Luke Hopt on Saturday. But I think, Rick made a good point too. That length is what it is, right? So New Mexico's going to have to figure out a way. They were in it the first game at San Diego State where Guath didn't play. So can't be worried about who they have. You just have to worry about what your game plan is and try to execute it. And that's what Nevada did. They executed better down the stretch than New Mexico did, for sure.
Yeah, well, you know how you beat length, Ed? Ball movement and good ball play and good guard play, man.
Yeah.
Spread it out, keep them moving, have them move their feet side to side, spread the floor, penetrate, kick out, things like that. Nick, I'm going to go to you next, man, on just kind of your overall keys to the game, and I'll probably kick it to Rick and see if you guys agree on some of them or maybe Rick has some different ones. So what would your kind of maybe top 3 keys to the game be in this one?
Yeah, man, you got to kind of think about how the last matchup went. I mean, that was a while ago. That was like a month and a half ago. So you kind of look at kind of how that game went down. The Lobos went up early, then San Diego State goes on a run. Lobos go down by 15. I don't think you want to get down by 15 points and keep having to come back, man. I think one of the keys for me is you got to get an early start on San Diego State. I'm not saying you got to have a double-digit lead at halftime, but I don't think you want to go into halftime down double digits. You can come back in the pit. If you're going to come back, this is the place to do it. But, I think UNM needs to come out and start strong. That's a key for me for number one. Number two, they're going to have to stop San Diego State from ball penetration. I think that's been a weakness for UNM. Kind of consistently over the last 3 games. I talked about the Fresno State game. Before that, Grand Canyon in the second half really got into the Lobos, really got into the paint and scored kind of at will. So UNM's going to have to play good on the ball defense against some of the playmakers for San Diego State. BJ Davis, remember that pull-up jumper he hit that was kind of the dagger for San Diego State over there. So on the ball, first dribble defense for the Lobos is another key for me. Those are my top 2 takes, man. I'll probably have a third, but yeah, curious to see what Rick has to say.
Rick, you got some thoughts.
Totally agree with the defense against San Diego State guards. They turn the ball over at one of the higher rates in the country. And we're talking about San Diego State like they're this juggernaut that can't be beaten. They lost their previous 2 games before this. Let's not forget, to Colorado State and GCU, where they had double-digit turnovers in both of those games. I think if Albury can get up and be a pest like he was against Fresno State, Tenet does a fantastic job at the point of attack as well. If they can hold the guards, push them into some uncomfortable positions and have them starting their offense further out than they want, I think that'll be key. But then the overall tempo of both teams. New Mexico, a team with, I believe, the highest tempo, only about 16 seconds per possession right now. So one of the fastest in the conference. I think it's one of the top 60 in the country. San Diego State defense forces one of the longest possession lengths in the country. So New Mexico wants to play fast. San Diego State wants them to take long possessions, drawn out shot clocks there. So how will that play out? Can New Mexico get good looks, or will Jay Call have another night where he goes 6 for 15 and the other guys are struggling to score? So I think just the overall tempo is going to be fun to watch.
Good valid points. Ed, what are your thoughts?
I think the rebounding and the free throw shooting, obviously, and I think getting we mentioned getting Chol going, and the defense is obviously something that I think the other thing is playing here at home. I thought Nevada definitely benefited from playing at home and wanting that game. They needed it. So I think here playing at home is going to be a big key for New Mexico, having a loud crowd at full throat. I expect that. But I think Hopt and Chol definitely, you need at least 10 from Chol, and hopefully you get 8 from Hopt and 5 rebounds and 3 assists. The connector, they've stopped that. They've stopped him from kind of connecting with other players. The driving kick, that's how they play. The read and react. So I think the rebounding is going to be a big thing. You can't give up a 42-34 rebound advantage like they did at Nevada and expect to win. And so I agree with all those other points that Nick and Rick made. But I really think it's one of those games where it's a home game. You've got Colorado State coming here on Wednesday, and then they go to Utah State. They've got to have it. They've got to win on Saturday. I don't think there's any question about it. So I think it's Rick. I don't think anybody thinks they're unbeatable, man. They played some good games, but you know what? They played some bad ones too, and they're coming here. So I think New Mexico is still pretty confident about them coming to play here and having a pretty good chance to beat them.
Yep. I also think that Coach Owen's bunch has to feel pretty confident too about how well they played defense too. They made it really hard for Nevada to score, not only in the first half, but in the second half. It just offense wasn't able to make more buckets. And Ed, you really touched on the free throw shooting part. I'm not going to beat that horse dead. And I think it's pretty obvious that if UNM makes a few more free throws in that last game, they probably walk out with a W, right? Or limit a few more turnovers. But guys, this was fun chatting it up. Don't know if any of you guys have any more final thoughts before I go to a quick commercial and we wrap up the show, but I had fun with all of you.
Great show, guys.
Same, Eric. It was great.
Yeah, thank you guys. Let's enjoy these last 3.
Yep. And then for the last time for our viewers and people tuning in, again at the Albuquerque Duke store. Make sure you show up. The store opens at 10. This hat will be released at 10 a.m. tomorrow. First 25 people that show up and buy a hat are going to get 20% off. Use the code PPress Dukes1. You can order in the store or online. And I was actually just informed by the Dukes folks that you can actually use that code for any hat in the store. So just make sure you're one of the first 25 people there to use that code. So go check it out. They spend a lot of time, designs, bringing back old logos, things like that. So before we wrap up the show, I'll just kind of want to wrap up with some final notes, but I'll kind of pass it around and get your guys' thoughts on it. But UNM today signed a deal with Nusenda Credit Union, the Power of We, for naming rights of the pit. It's still going to go by the pit, but powered by Nusenda, which is gonna, I think an overall deal is $17.5 million over 10 years, which is about $1.7 million in revenue for athletics per year, which is extremely important in these days of age and NIL and rev share. So Rick, I'll go to you first, just to maybe you have some thoughts on that deal and how it kind of bolsters UNM, because I know you worked in the athletic department there for a short while.
I did actually work for Lobo Sports Properties part-time. I wasn't out there wheeling and dealing like the guys that made this deal, but I think this was an existing relationship, obviously, between Nusenda, who already had their logo, I believe, on the court over at the football field. I think a more trustworthy business than the previous two companies that tried to have the naming rights, and Wise Pies and Dream Style. Per what I read in Jeff Grammer's article today, those fell apart in a number of years, and the sponsors didn't pay the amount of money that they, were supposed to pay the university. So I think this a long-term partner that will guaranteed pay what they're guaranteeing to pay New Mexico. And as you hit on, these type of deals, especially for a school like New Mexico with not a lot of big business, I think willing to do these type of things. It's cool to see Nusenda do this, and really, I think, hopefully set a standard for other companies. Let's not forget the football stadium will be getting remodeled starting in 27. What kind of naming rights can be done there and build on things like this? For comparison, I think they said the naming rights at one of the Arizona schools, you guys can correct me, I think it was ASU that was referenced there. Naming deal was around the same value. So that sounds good to me. Is anyone going to really call it the pit powered by Nusenda when they're speaking about it other than the media and radio guys? I don't think so. But I think it was cool how interim AD Ryan Berryman said that he and Nusenda took the project to Anderson School of Management there at UNM, where I am a two-time marketing grad, and they did a marketing research survey about what it would really mean, right, to say this around the pit. They didn't want to get it wrong again. So I like it, and I think they got it right.
Yeah, I'm just glad that Berryman is still pretty much involved in keeping this ship moving in the right direction, even with the interim title. But Nick, do you have any thoughts on the title rights?
Yeah, man, for sure. $1.74 million per fiscal year will go to UNM as part of the naming rights deal. According to Jeff Grammer's article in the Albuquerque Journal, the money is going to go into the general fund to support revenue sharing for athletes. So $1.74 million with a current cap of $20 million to pay student athletes and revenue sharing. I don't know, guys. I mean, should we just give that $1.74 million to Jake Hall? I'm just kidding. We'll have to see how that money gets spent. Not. What do you think, Rick? Is it worth it or no?
Yes.
All right, Dad. 1.74 to Jake Hall from Nusenda.
Yeah,
if Donovan Dent is worth $3 million, Jake Hall is worth half of that.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, that's
fair.
That's true.
Look, obviously UNM is going to disperse that appropriately according to Title IX. They'll do the right thing. But yeah, and then the other piece of this, it was reported in Jeff Grammer's article that the agreement is actually between UNM Sports Properties, which is an affiliate of Playfly Sports, and Rick was kind of talking about that, and Nusenda, and they're claiming that the contract is not a public record. So we'll have to see how that shakes out. But no, all in all, man, a really good naming rights deal for UNM.
Yep. I think one of the next things to come for UNM athletics is actually logos on jerseys. I know that's starting to happen more frequently around the country, but all on good things for UNM. Before we jump off, though, guys, I also want to shout out UNM baseball. Would be a crime of me not to, since I played college baseball, but they're 8-0. They open up a series against St. Thomas tomorrow, Lobo Field, 2 p.m. I think there might be some traffic maneuvering to do for Saturday because the Lobo basketball game also starts at noon. So just be aware of that before anyone heads to the game and tries to find parking. So, guys, it was fun chatting it up. Always a pleasure. Love talking hoops and just sports in general with you guys. But for Eric Moulton, Nick Nunez, Ed Nunez, and Rick Thompson, you've been watching the Pit Press. And until next time, thanks for tuning, guys.